Hey there folks, Wrel here. It's November 16th and this is your weekend wake-up for Operation Gearhead. To celebrate the release of the new Vorcha Engineer, BioWare wants you to get 75,000 points and extract 3 times on any difficulty. Originally I wanted to talk to you about the different classes and how you can accomplish this weekend goal, but since I figure the directions are pretty straightforward, what was previously known as weekend walkthroughs have now become weekend wake-ups, and I'll be taking the time out of my not-so-busy day to talk to you about a few things you may not have known relating specifically to the weekend operation. This time I'd like to share some thoughts on the 3 turrets that are in the game. That's the Quarian Sentry Turret, the Geth Turret, and the Human Combat Drone. Not really a turret, but close enough. Now, the Quarian female stands out as one of the most unconventional characters in the game simply because she doesn't have the ability to set up and detonate tech explosions except for the pretty much useless cryo explosion with her non-turret abilities. She acts more like a support class in that respect, you know, like a Volus, the sexy Volus. The Sentry Turret doesn't dish out a lot of damage through the basic attack, and it's extremely fragile. That said, there are generally 2 ways you can set it up. If you're looking for a long-range accomplice, then you can go the rocket route. On higher difficulties, your turret is likely to go down quick, so pull the damage and the shields over shock. I've personally never seen cryo rounds actually free someone, so it's a safe bet to go for armor piercing, especially since the Quarian's Cryo Blast has a stupidly low cooldown and offers a lot of benefits that cryo rounds probably don't. Lastly, you just grab the rocket evolution. And generally, because Sentry Turret has a low cooldown and can be thrown wherever, I tend to spec it for short-range combat. So Shock will zap anybody at short range, stunning enemies, and Flamethrower, which also can stagger enemies, will usually set you up for fire explosions. I say usually because the flames don't always stick for whatever reason. If your enemy is doing, even if your enemy is doing like the happy fire dance, they just won't give you that fire det. So overall, Sentry Turret is great for hindering enemies, giving you time to make an escape or set up a shot. I tend to play my Quarian as an in-your-face kind of engineer, but with so much versatility, you can do whatever makes you happy. The Geth Turret functions along the lines of the Quarians, but it will make your teammates a lot happier. Occasionally the Geth Turret will regen some of your shields or your allies' shields. This happens at most every 8 seconds within 8 meters. So with the Restore Frequency Tier 6 upgrade, that time goes down to 5.6 seconds, and with the Restore Range Tier 5 upgrade, the distance is bumped up to 11.2 meters. Needless to say, the Geth Turret is pretty sweet for keeping people alive, but it also deals the most damage out of any turret in the game. Except maybe the the enemy's heavy emplacements, and those are killer. Both shields and damage upgrade and the armor damage upgrades also increase the damage of Flamethrower evolution, and the same goes for the shields and damage upgrade for the Quarian Sentry Turret. But regardless of how you set this turret up, it's pretty amazing all around. Flamethrower can set up fire explosions, which you detonate with overload, but restoring shields every 5.6 seconds is also pretty outstanding, so it really all comes down to your playstyle. The Human Combat Drone, probably one of my favorite turrets in the game. Oh, it's not really a turret, it's a drone. It moves slowly, but it can be cast directly on enemies instantly at range, so even those behind cover. It does the least damage in the game of any turret, but it's probably the most annoying for your enemies. Because the Human Engineer has so much damage output via Incinerate and Overload, it makes sense that the combat drone is geared toward utility. If you spec into the Shock Tier 5 evolution, the first thing your combat drone will do once it's summoned is stagger nearby enemies. So if you have the Chain Lightning Tier 6 evolution, it will stagger up to 4 targets, and it can even do it from a good distance away. This is really interesting to me because it can essentially act like a mini neural shock, which is the Tier 5 overload upgrade. And I usually always get that. But since the drone does it for you, you can feel a little less guilty about speccing overload for just pure damage. If you grab the Explosive Drone Tier 4 evolution, your drone not only explodes when it's killed, but will also explode when you resummon it. On a side note, Explosive Drone explosions will also set off tech detonations, so if you have an enemy primed with Incinerate and your drone happens to die next to them, they'll take a good deal of damage. Like the Quarian Sentry Turret, the combat drone can also pick up the Tier 6 Rockets evolution, which is great for damage output, It's personal preference mostly, but I like the ability to shock multiple targets. They could be spread out, even while I use my other abilities to take care of them. While I haven't tested it personally, I've read that if a Banshee has aggro on a combat drone, they'll spam their AoE until the drone dies. If a Brute or a Husk gets aggro on the drone, then they'll try to sync kill it, and then they'll just stare stupidly at it for a short while. Well, that's all for this episode. Please rate, subscribe, comment, and like this video, and if you're feeling extra fancy, then you could take a look at the Turing Engineer concept that I've cooked up in the BioWare forums, and maybe give it some feedback, because hey, who wouldn't want a Turing Engineer, right? Until next time, Wrel signing off.